A young woman walking home, a police officer in uniform, a nation in shock. Sarah Everard's case was not just another crime, it became a turning point. It revealed unsettling truths about trust, power, and violence against women in modern society. What started as a simple walk home became a national tragedy, one that uncovered disturbing abuse within the very institution meant to protect citizens. Her name became a symbol. But behind that name was a real person with a family, dreams, and a future that was stolen in the most horrifying way. Who was Sarah Everard? Sarah Everard was a 33-year-old marketing executive living in London. Originally from York, she was known for being kind, hardworking, and well-loved by her friends and family. She had recently started a new job and was living in the Brixton area of South London. Sarah was described as thoughtful, careful, and someone who never took unnecessary risks. She had studied at Durham University and graduated with a degree in geography. Friends said she had a calm presence and an intelligent, friendly demeanor. She wasn't the kind of person to attract trouble. She followed the rules, kept in touch with loved ones, and looked after her safety. Sarah's life was just beginning to take off. She had everything to look forward to: a career, friendships, and a bright future. But on the night of March 3rd, 2021, everything changed. The night she disappeared. On the evening of March 3rd, Sarah had been visiting a friend in Clapham. Around 9 p.m., she left to walk home, a journey that should have taken about 45 minutes. She wore bright clothing, called her boyfriend along the way, and walked along well-lit streets. She did everything women are told to do to stay safe. But somewhere along her walk near the South Circular Road in Clapham, Sarah vanished. She was last seen on CCTV around 9:30 p.m., walking alone. When she didn't return home and didn't respond to messages, her boyfriend raised the alarm the next morning. The Metropolitan Police quickly opened a missing persons investigation. Flyers were posted, searches were launched, and the public joined efforts to locate her. The case attracted national attention almost immediately. How could a woman simply vanish in the middle of a busy city? Something didn't add up. The shock of the investigation. Just days into the investigation, the case took an unexpected and deeply disturbing turn. On March 9, 2021, police arrested a suspect, not just any man, but a serving Metropolitan Police officer named Wayne Couzens. He was a firearms officer in the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Command. The news horrified the public. How could a man whose duty was to uphold the law be involved in such a crime? Investigators learned that Couzens had hired a rental car on the night of Sarah's disappearance. Evidence, including CCTV footage and phone data, placed him near Sarah's last known location. On March 10th, human remains were found in a wooded area near Ashford in Kent. 2 days later, DNA confirmed the tragic news. It was Sarah Everard. The nation was devastated. What had happened to her and why? The horrific details of the crime. As details emerged, the horror deepened. Wayne Couzens had used his position as a police officer to falsely arrest Sarah under the guise of COVID-19 lockdown violations. Witnesses reported seeing a woman being handcuffed and led to a car, something they assumed was legitimate. It wasn't. Couzens kidnapped Sarah, drove her over 80 miles to Kent, raped her, and then murdered her. He burned her body and left her remains in the woodland. The premeditation and cruelty of the crime shocked even the most experienced investigators. What made it worse was that Couzens had shown disturbing behavior prior to the crime, including indecent exposure incidents, which had not been properly addressed by the police. His access to police equipment and the authority of his badge made it easy for him to commit his monstrous plan. Public reaction and outrage. Sarah's murder triggered nationwide protests, vigils, and calls for accountability. On March 13, a peaceful vigil held in Clapham Common was met with a heavy-handed police response, leading to further outrage. Women across the UK and beyond shared their stories of harassment, fear, and being forced to take precautions just to feel safe. The hashtag #Reclaim These Streets trended across social media as thousands demanded justice not only for Sarah, but for all women who walk in fear. The government was forced to confront the systemic failures that allowed Couzens to stay in uniform despite prior complaints. The case became a flashpoint in the conversation about violence against women, the misuse of police power, and the need for sweeping reforms in how authorities handle both internal misconduct and public safety. The trial and sentencing of Wayne Couzens. Wayne Couzens was charged with Sarah Everard's kidnap and murder. On June 8, 2021, he pleaded guilty to her kidnapping and rape. Later, he also admitted to her murder. The court heard disturbing testimony, including how Couzens used his status to manipulate and deceive Sarah. In September 2021, he was sentenced to a whole life order, meaning he would spend the rest of his life behind bars with no chance of parole. This was a rare sentence in the UK, reserved only for the most heinous crimes. The judge called the case devastating and uniquely evil, stating that Couzens had eroded the public's trust in the police. The sentence was welcomed by the public, but it did little to ease the grief or restore the sense of security that had been shattered. Police failures and institutional fallout. The case sparked internal reviews within the Metropolitan Police and other law enforcement agencies. It was revealed that Couzens had a history of disturbing behavior, including incidents of flashing that had been reported but not seriously investigated. Public confidence in the police plummeted. Women began questioning the safety of interacting with officers, especially alone. The Met issued new advice telling women to flag down buses or call emergency services if they felt unsafe with an officer. But for many, the damage was already done. Institutional trust was broken. Many critics, including former officers and women's rights organizations, demanded a complete overhaul of internal vetting procedures and greater transparency about misconduct within police forces. A global conversation on women's safety. Sarah's case didn't just shake the UK. It sparked a global conversation about the daily dangers women face. From walking alone at night to getting into a cab, millions of women shared their experiences with fear, harassment, and not being believed when they spoke out. Public figures, celebrities, and activists spoke up, emphasizing the need to stop blaming victims and start addressing the root causes of violence. Educational programs, legislation, and new safety apps were launched in response. But above all, Sarah's story reminded the world that the issue isn't just about individual bad actors. It's about the systems that allow them to go unchecked. Her name became a rallying cry for change, legacy, and ongoing reforms. In the wake of the tragedy, several legal and policing reforms were proposed. The UK government announced plans to improve the vetting of police officers, introduce better protections for women and girls, and increase funding for violence prevention initiatives. The public also demanded greater representation of women in policing, leadership, and policy-making roles. The Met faced continued scrutiny for how it handles internal complaints and misconduct reports. The pressure hasn't let up, and nor should it. Sarah's family, while devastated, supported many of the reforms and honored her memory through calls for meaningful change. Though no law or policy can bring her back, her death has left a permanent mark on the national conscience. Sarah Everard did everything right. She walked a well-lit path. She stayed in touch with loved ones. She followed the rules. Yet it wasn't enough. She was targeted by someone who used power and trust as weapons. Her case is not just a story of a terrible crime. It's a wake-up call. A call for justice, reform, and the basic right for women to feel safe in public spaces. The disturbing story of Sarah Everard is one the world must never forget. If you found this story important, please like, share, and subscribe to support more true crime investigations and awareness stories like this. And remember, awareness is the first step to change.